Welcome back, you animals, to another episode of the Interview of Argu. This is just a reminder that if you want to come to the podcast, all are invited and all are welcome. Just reach out to me on any of my platforms or fill in the form in the link in the description. But without further ado, let's get to our first candidate. Our candidate today is one of the hardest working individuals I know. When it comes to leadership, he was the head boy of Northwood High School. First team cricket, first team hockey, first team indoor hockey, first team softball, and captain of the legendary, undefeated 7th team soccer team. When it comes to education, he has a civil engineering degree from the University of Pretoria and his first level in CFA accreditation. He currently works at the prestigious Structed Institute, where he's working on acquiring his PR engineering title. When it comes to health, he has a 3-hour 37-minute marathon, a 4-hour 45-minute 100-kilometer cycle, competed in the Durban Ironman in 5 hours and 48 minutes, and you can see him in the gym every morning at 5 a.m. If you want to know about his social media presence, you can see him posting about his 5 a.m. gym sessions on Instagram. But I know him as the really Lebanese guy from my first year res. Ladies and gentlemen, Ciaglia, welcome to the show.
Okay, thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this interview.
Discipline isn't about doing the hard things. It's about deciding who you refuse to disappoint. Why do you refuse to disappoint yourself? And if it's not you you're worried about disappointing, who is it?
Sure, you started with the deep one right off the bat. So I think I need to take that back to when I was growing up. And I'm going to start off with quite a deep part of my life. But my dad passed away when I was 8 years old. And he left a pretty big hole in my family's life. My mom wasn't working at the time, and it was just me and my younger brother. So I think a big part of my motivation and my discipline is not to disappoint the people that showed faith in me growing up. I didn't come from a very successful financial background, and from a young age, a lot of pressure was put on me, not by anyone else, but from myself. I had to become the man of the house at quite a young age, and that is just something that I took upon myself. And no one questioned me, no one asked me questions as to why I was doing the things I was doing. People just gave me the freedom to be that person for my family. And when I think about it now, a lot of my motivation and discipline stems from that period of my life. I don't want to disappoint my family. I don't want to disappoint my brother. I feel like I have been someone that they have looked up to for a very long time. And they are the people ultimately that I want to make proud.
So it's almost like you had to grow up too quickly and you had to be the dad of the family from the very beginning in your dad's absence. And now it's about not letting your family down.
100%. But like I said, no one forced that upon me. And I mean, when you say you have to grow up too quickly, a lot of people would look at that as a bad thing. But I feel those parts of your life are, I like to call them catapult events. There's a few catapult events in my life that maybe we can elaborate on further. Yeah. But that was definitely one. My dad passing was a catapult event. But I wouldn't, as horrible as the time was, I wouldn't change it. I think I am the person I am today because of the events that unfolded. And I am grateful for the lessons I've learned throughout the journey. And I'm grateful for the person I am today so that I can help other people in that situation.
The event was a feature of your life, not a bug. It had to happen for you to be who you are today. Before we talk about like those catapult events, there's actually some like interesting statistics I want to read for you. But globally, 1 in 4 children grow up without a biological father in the home. In South Africa, estimates suggest over 60% of children grow up without the biological father present, one of the highest rates in the world. Children raised without the father are 2 to 3 times more likely to experience depression or anxiety, more likely to struggle with discipline, authority, identity, at a higher risk of substance abuse and incarceration, being arrested, more likely to experience academic underperformance, and men who do not live with a biological father are roughly twice as likely to have spent time in jail by the age of 30. So you obviously lost your dad at a pretty young age, and you managed to beat all the statistics and turn yourself into someone that most people are proud of, and I hope that you're proud of. But
definitely.
Do you have advice for people whose dad's not really around right now, maybe a young kid watching this one day?
Well, that's the biggest reason I push so hard, is because I know when a family member is lost at such a young age, you can go one of two paths. You can go down that path where you can almost adopt a victim mentality. You can feel sorry for yourself. You can hate the world. You can resort to theft, alcohol, drugs, whatever it is. But there's also that other path. You can take it on the chin. You can accept life for what it is, and you can build on that.
Yeah.
You can be that figure for your family and your friends so that you can show other people that it's possible. And that is my reason. That is the reason I push so hard. That is the reason I've stayed determined. That's the reason I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day, to show people that despite you having hard times in your life, it is possible to persevere and become the man that you want to be.
Do you think you have a bit of a chip on your shoulder from this? Like you feel like you have something to prove the whole time?
I don't think it's something to prove. I think I am comfortable enough in myself to know that what I'm doing is right. However, I want to be the father to my sons that I didn't have growing up. And that is a big motivating factor for me.
I think what you said is super interesting because there's a very fine line between the two outcomes, right? Because I think the same person that, sees all the negatives in themselves and thinks, man, I'm just shit out of luck. Life wasn't meant for me. I'll never be anything. I'm bad this, I'm bad that. There's a very fine line between that person and the person that looks at all their indeficiencies and they want to go out and do something about it. They want to make a change and they want to be someone they're more proud of. What's that fine line? What do you think it is? Why do some people default to the victim mentality while some people actually manage to grow from their struggles instead?
Honestly, I think it comes down to, and I could be wrong here, but this is just my opinion on the question. When you are growing up without a safety net, no one is coming to save you. And when you say no one's coming to save you, it's not no individual is coming to help you. No one's going to come put food on your table. No one coming to save you means no one is coming to save you from you. So you need to flip that switch in your mind. You need to be proactive about the situation, and you need to write your own future. So that fine line for me, it comes down, I may be speaking out of turn, but it comes down to whether you have a safety net. People that do come from more privileged backgrounds and may have lost a family member could possibly resort to the other things because they know that they are going to be taken care of. They don't need to, they have backup options, whereas I am my backup option.
Okay, yeah, I think the way I always thought about it is some of it is upbringing. Now, obviously, what happened to you was at a very young age, so the upbringing was much shorter. But I think not just when someone passes away, but when any tragedy befalls someone, they fail the degree, they don't know what they want to do with their life, they go for a bad breakup. If your whole life you've kind of been used to someone else solves my problem, you're going to stay with that attitude of, it's okay, someone's going to come fix it for me. Someone's going to come someday and tell me that all these things that I'm worried about, they're not true, that people actually like me, that I'm good enough, or so on. And I don't believe that's going to ever happen. I think if you think a bunch of stuff in your life is going bad, then it's probably the case. With the smoke, there's fire. And I think trying to numb out the idea of something else can come fix it, or maybe I'm okay, I think that's kind of the pitfall people fall into. It's something that happens a lot with modern therapy, and I'm eventually going to make a whole video on what I think of modern therapy. But I think modern therapy, specifically for men, is not really geared to things that actually help men feel better. Because a lot of modern therapy is, how do you deal with being okay with everything around you? But sometimes things around you are just bad. Sometimes you are 100 kgs overweight. Sometimes you are addicted to substances. Sometimes you don't have anything going in your life. And that's not okay. And you need to be told how to have agency in your life, not that your life is fine as is. Do you have any recommendations on how someone can find more agency in their life, where they can feel like things are within their control? Is it starting small with, controlling doing your dishes every single day? Or is it finding someone you can aspire to be to? Or is it setting a long-term goal and being come heaven or hell, I'm going to go get that long-term goal eventually? What do you think it is?
So I've got quite a bit to unpack here. So Number one, every single day, I make a to-do list. Not on my phone, not in my head, with a pen and paper. When I get to work, I make a to-do list. And this to-do list comprises of everything and anything. Things from brushing my teeth, to submitting reports for a project, to going to gym. And in my mind, that keeps me sane. And I feel that every single time you tick off a thing to do, brush your teeth, make your bed, whatever it is, it gives you a sense of accomplishment and motivation to just tackle the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It's addictive to complete tasks.
Almost like gamify.
Gamify your life.
Yeah.
Level up. Every time you make your bed, well done. Tap yourself on the back. You've made it to level 2.
Yeah. If anyone's interested, there's actually a nice app on you can get on your phone called Habitat, which is this exact thing. You put.
Are they sponsoring the podcast?
They're not sponsoring. Maybe they can reach out to me, but right now, not at all. But basically, you can put like about 6 or 7 things you want to do throughout any given day, and every time you tick it off, you get XP. And then if you get level up, they give you like, oh, here's a little sword for you, or like here's a new icon or whatever. So it's a nice way of gamifying things. But maybe on that, I think some people would look at that and they would create this list and they'll have like 20 things on there. And the second that they don't get to one, then it's a negative self-talk again of, oh man, I can't even brush my teeth. Oh, I can't even get it out and make my bed. Do you recommend like starting small and building your way up? Or do you think there's more of some people need a deep end approach where it's just from the word go, they're going to go all out?
No. I've got a big inner critic. So I'm one of those people that if I miss something there, I'll spiral a little bit. So definitely start small. Like anything in life. I mean, if you're starting out in gym, you're not going to go 6 times a week. You're not going to be deadlifting 200 kgs. You're going to start small. You're going to learn the basics. You're going to learn how to do the form. You're going to start with light weights. And then you build on that.
Do you have recommendations of light weights that people can have? Maybe outside of like the, self-care, grooming stuff like brushing your teeth and getting up, but like small habits people can do, like going for a walk or regularly seeing a friend or something along those lines?
Well, the number one thing is waking up at a regular time. I'm an advocate for waking up at 5 a.m. It's partly because I need to be places at certain times. But if you win your morning, if you wake up at the time that you said you were going to wake up the night before, you have already set the tone for the rest of the day. And it doesn't need to be 5 a.m. If you only need to be up at 7 a.m., then 7 o'clock's fine. But make it consistent. Make it that first little victory.
I always tell people, like, if you wake up at 5 a.m., you're not going to hop onto your computer to watch Netflix. It's just the act of waking up early. It kind of incentivizes you to go do something of this extra productive time.
Yes.
And how that manifests is different for people. Last year, I really wanted to improve my coding. Because for those of you that don't know, I work as a data scientist, so I do a lot of coding. And I didn't have much going on in my life, so I was like, fuck, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to code. And it's maybe not the best practice to wake up at 5 a.m. and sit in front of a screen for 3 hours before sitting in front of another screen for 8 hours. But now at my company, I'm very well recognized as a very proficient coder and a very technical person. So it helped me in some way. But the thing is, like, I got up and it's like, yeah, I could go back to bed, but it's already been made. I've already had a cup of coffee. I'm not going to sit around and scroll my phone for a couple of hours. So now I have to do something with it. I think there's also like small stuff, like I always sound like an old-timey man for saying this, and it's anti-marketing for the podcast and stuff. I tell people to get off the phones, delete Instagram.
100%.
I think you're probably familiar with like the sedation hypothesis.
No, can you elaborate?
I bring it up quite often, but it's basically this concept of people sedate their desires gently with technology. So a very popular one is like men have an innate drive for competitiveness.
Yes.
Not all men, whatever, most men have a drive for competitiveness. And video games sedates that. So when you play a video game, you get that little bit of competitive drive, enough to scratch the itch for it, but not to satisfy it.
Okay.
And another one is like, big one's pornography for men, right? It's like you have this desire to have intimacy and affection of someone, and you kind of just slowly sedate that with pornography, and it scratches the itch, but it doesn't satisfy it. And people have so many of those, and it's so easy to, like, every single time you have a desire or you're feeding out of it or whatever, pick up your phone and address it through your phone. So I advocate for people to be bored a little bit more, like have quiet time where you're not shoving some form of media into your face. And in that boredom, you're going to kind of see the things that you want. It's going to start coming to you. And the sad part is you are going to feel a little bit icky with it. It's going to bring up things you're uncomfortable with. But I've always said, like, the discomfort you feel in silence is the same thing as like the pain you feel when you put your hand on hot fire. It's telling you to take your hand off the fire. So if you feel very uncomfortable sitting in silence because you're not happy with things, that's a really good sign that you should go do something with your life, right? I think something I also advocate really big for is like people having a sense of community, because right now sense of community is a bit on the down low. I've got some more stats here for you where in the US, the American Perspective Survey found that the percentage of men with no close friends increased from 3% in 1990 to 15% by 2021. So that's a 500 times increase in the amount of people claim to have no friends.
Do you think the increase in technology and interconnectivity over social media has been a product of it?
I think it's definitely a product of it, man. I also think, so this is obviously with men specifically, a lot of men's hobbies get poo-pooed on, dude. A lot of men's hobbies get told like they're icks or they're cringy or like they're toxic or whatever. And if you think that your hobby is something to be ashamed of, you're not going to go do it. And hobbies are where you have most of your friends.
Yeah.
Like when you get to be an adult, you don't get the chance to just like smoke pot on the couch and play video games for a couple hours a day. You gotta go work, and after work, you gotta have a plan, right? And because that hobbies used to be the way that people would go and connect and find their friends, or even church. Like, yes, church serves a religious purpose, but church also serves a community purpose in the sense that 1 hour a week you had to go see people that were in your community and you would go like interact with them. And we don't have that much anymore. And like I think it's a problem for men under the age of 30. It rose to nearly 1 in 5 people that have no friends. So it's definitely like our generation happening. And number of men reporting 6 or more close friends dropped by more than half over the same time period. And people are depressed from it. The problem of not having a community is your community satisfies certain needs from you, right? And different communities satisfy different needs. Now, if you don't have communities, all you have is your job, and maybe if you're lucky, a partner, now you're asking a lot of needs to be met from these two things. If you don't have either of those, then where are you getting your needs met, right? Do you have like any idea on like what we can do to kind of combat this extreme loneliness? How people can go out, meet like-minded people, stop isolating themselves, and actually live a more traditional lifestyle?
Well, firstly, I just want to go back to you talking about having that quiet time for yourself.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped all over the place.
No,
yeah.
It's okay. That was great. I think it's very important. You have to be comfortable with those boring days. You need to understand that your life is not a highlight reel. It is not a movie trailer.
It's not an Instagram reel.
You're going to have more boring days in life than highlights. And when the day you accept that and you understand that is the day you are going to appreciate the highlights more. And you're going to appreciate your alone time with yourself. And I actually encourage everybody in their life to, even if it's just for 6 months, live by yourself. Because you get home from work, you get home from gym, to no one. You get home to yourself, your 4 walls around you, and your thoughts. And that is where you grow. You grow a lot because you think about life, you think about things that you don't want to think about, and you're forced to. And you're forced to confront situations in your life where you want to improve.
Do you know the comedian Joshua Johnson?
I don't.
He has this brilliant segment in one of his shows where he talks about how like the first 6 months of living by yourself are the best thing that ever happened to you, and then the next 6 months are the worst thing that ever happened to you. And he talks about like the first 6 months you're like, I don't have to wear clothes around the apartment. And then the last 6 months you're like, who even needs clothes?
That's great.
No, but I think the living alone thing, it definitely hit me very hard.
It's tough.
It is tough. And it hit me in a point where it was just fresh out of varsity. Everyone moved away. And I was the only one still in Pretoria studying at the time. I remember thinking like, how do you go make friends? How do you find people? Because the whole last 4 or 5 years, they were just always there, you know?
Yeah.
And I think maybe even like during COVID times when you're not going to class with people still went back to varsity just to see others.
I did.
Yeah.
I did that.
We all did. Well, most of us did. Some of us weren't as fortunate. But now when you get a job, especially in this age where like everyone, you can work from home or work remotely or whatever, it's so tough to actually go out and meet people. And you forget how to socialize with people. You forget how to hold a conversation. And then it turns into this, the opposite of the competence breeds competence cycle. It becomes like inconfidence or lack of confidence breeds no skills leads lack of confidence. And you kind of, because you haven't had these interactions before, or you haven't had them for a long time, you're not confident in it. Because you're not confident in it, it comes across poorly and doesn't go well. Because it didn't go well, now you're even less confident in the ability to do it. And it becomes this negative spiral of things. I advocate for like people doing sports again.
100%.
Like hockey club, touch rugby, whatever it is, yeah. MMA. I advocate for people to go to church, but I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. What's like some that you recommend to people where they can go make friends or, meet other people?
So I think ultimately you have to stop caring.
Oh.
Like if you have a hobby that is maybe frowned upon because it's against societal norms, you need to stop caring. If it makes you happy, go do it. Because there are, how many people? 9 billion people in the world? 8 billion?
8 billion.
I promise you, you have a shared interest with a lot of those people. And that is where you're going to make your friends. So you don't need to worry what people are saying. I mean, I'm posting a lot of social media content at the moment about fitness. Yeah, in the beginning it was cringy. So who's this like posting about his bench press and deadlift?
I'll correct you. It's still kind of cringy.
But that's the thing. You have to stop caring. Yeah. Because I've made a lot of friends on social media because of this. Like-minded people that are also trying to push their fitness journey and their agenda. And through that, from starting to post on social media, I started meeting a lot of people at the gym in person. Then from there, I started running. From there, I started doing triathlons. And you create your little community through your interests. And it may not be instant, but you need to stick with it because there are people that share that common interest.
Yeah, I 100% agree with it. I mean, I'm experiencing something similar now where as I started posting the podcast stuff, a lot of people started following me from like the suggested and whatever, or me just telling them about the podcast. And I would check my follower count and it went down, which means like a couple like 100, 200 people stopped following me once I started pursuing a dream. And that's kind of the process, I think we've also done this thing.
But that's filtering out your community.
Because we've also done this thing where we think that breadth is better than depth, which is not true. I'd rather have people that are completely locked into what I want to have for my life than have a bunch of people that are impartial to it and they kind of just stick around, But the other thing on that is there's one girl at my work who really loves knitting and crocheting. And we had like 2 other girls join our team. There's not a lot of girls that work in data science. She was the only one for a long time.
Okay.
And we had 2 other girls join the team. And they also knitted and crocheted. And now they chat about that. And like it's a hobby they share. And I judge knitting and crocheting because I'm a terrible person. I think it's really lame. But they love it. And they go along with it. And the big thing is like they're not ashamed of it. So it's easy for them to go and engage with other people. If you like books, start like a Instagram page where you rate books. Eventually someone will be like, oh, I love that one, Or if you're really into tattooing, like there's so many tattoo events where you can go get a flash one, you can meet similar people. Like,
yeah.
There's everything out there. But I think what you said about not having shame is the important thing, right? And I do believe shame does serve a purpose in society, but we should shame the bad people, the murderers, the bigots, the racists. We should shame those kind of people. Shaming people because you don't understand them is not the solution, right? Like, I think a lot of people, I recently spoke to a friend who is very anti-capitalist, anti-money. And he genuinely believes that Elon Musk does not work at all, that he just has everything made for him. But you go and you listen to the reports of, who's his ex-wife, Mackenzie, or whatever. But
he's had a few.
Or the first one, it was like the major split. She said that like, if he slept 4 hours a night, it was a miracle, So he's definitely working. And it's just you don't recognize the difficulty of running a business or being an entrepreneur or being in that space. So you don't see the value in it, so you judge it. And that's the wrong way to approach things. You need to start seeing, or not seeing, but understanding that just because you don't know how difficult something is, doesn't mean it's not difficult. And just because you don't understand why it's interesting, doesn't mean it's not interesting to people. So we definitely need to like tell people to be less ashamed of themselves, but we also need to stop judging people so much for everything.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, life is so finite. Who are you to tell someone that their hobby is not cool?
Yeah, exactly.
Let them live their life. You have 80, if you're lucky, 90 years of life to live. Let them do what they want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, we are all living for the first time.
Do you recommend like a kind of like an exposure therapy approach to being less ashamed of your hobbies? Where it's
Start.
just do it.
Start. Because you can be stuck in that spiral of, I can't think of the wording right now, but it's, you overthink something so much that you don't end up doing the thing. And that is exactly what's going to happen. If you are so ashamed or so used to listening to people's judgment, you are not going to do it because you are going to overthink and overthink and overthink. Yeah. And before you know it, it's 10 years down the line and you haven't started it. Yeah. And that's why I'm so proud of you for starting this podcast. Yeah. It takes a lot of balls to do what you're doing.
I've wanted to do this for like so many years, and I kept putting it off. Like I'll do it when I'm a more reputable person, so it's easier. But instead, I'm just going to become the more reputable person.
Yeah, because you're taking control of your life.
Yeah. There's a really great quote that kind of speaks to that overthinking thing by Mark Manson, where he said, learning is just the lazy man's procrastination. And it's a deadly one because learning feels very productive. And you feel like if you learn enough about the thing, then you can just go do it. But in reality, you're just delaying doing the thing.
Yeah. I'm a major culprit of that. I mean, the word I was looking for, it's paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
If you analyze a situation too much, you are going to be paralyzed. You are not going to take that first step. And often at work, I mean, we have major problems that we need to find solutions for. And you can spend days reading guidelines and standards and looking at past projects to try to figure out a solution. But at one point, you're going to have to put your fingers on the keyboard and just start.
Yeah. Do you think, I'm trying to embrace this mentality of my life of getting better at solving problems when they come up, than instead of getting better at anticipating problems. Because if you're really good at anticipating problems, you're preparing yourself for a lot of situations that would never happen. Whereas if you're good at dealing with problems, and no matter what comes up, you can sort it out. You know? But that only comes with having problems to solve. You guys gotta go do it. Maybe just one more thing on the friendship thing before we transition off of it. I recently found out that 2 of the oldest people to ever exist actually spoke about friendship. So there's no possession more valuable than a good and faithful friend. Socrates. The antidote for 50 enemies in life is one friend. Aristotle.
Sure.
It's been, people have kind of known since the BC days, because Aristotle was around 500 BC. That's 3,000 years ago. People were just kind of saying, yeah, man, if you got some friends, you're all good. And now we've kind of had this mentality of go do it yourself. You don't need anybody. You're a self-made man. And yeah, it's good to encourage people that they can achieve things on their own, but it doesn't mean that you have to achieve it on your own. You get what I'm saying?
100%. I mean, when you're part of this hustle culture, it's very easy to adopt that monk mode mindset where you just lock in, you say no to every invitation to any event, you don't say no to bras, you don't see your friends. And it's cool. For a while, you are locked in, you're getting your stuff done, but you very quickly forget to learn how to interact with people.
Yeah.
So it's important to find that balance.
Yeah. Do you maybe have an idea for that balance? Because, you can go the opposite way where you're saying yes to everything and you just never get to the things you want to do.
Yeah.
Do you if you have 7 days in a week, 28 days or 31 days in a month, how often should you prioritize saying yes to things, and how often should you focus on actually, hard work on the things that you want?
So the way I like to do it is I like to compartmentalize my life. So in order to do that, I need to have a priority list of things that are important to me. So for me, number one, how do I get my income? It's my job. So between the hours of 7:30 and 5, I compartmentalize my life and I am focused on work. Before 7:30 is gym. That's when I train. After 7:30, after 5 in the evening is maybe additional training. But at those two portions in between and or after and before work is time I do not think about work. Then after work and after gym, it comes down to my community and my friends. That doesn't really have space during the week. My days are very busy, like a lot of people. A lot of people in their 20s trying to grind and make a name for themselves. So that's where my weekends come in. My Saturdays are very important to spend time with my friends, do things that I enjoy, and just let loose a little bit.
Do you think there's some value to like interweaving moments of community throughout that process? Because you can obviously have a community at work. You know, I don't think work's supposed to be this thing where you're like, oh, it's just lock in monk mode, have headphones on and go. You can have friends at work. You can gym with friends. You can kind of interweave them into these processes. How important is it to build a community around the things that are important to you so that you can not have to set aside time for people and try to interweave them into your life?
Well, number one is choosing your friends wisely. If you are going to, let's say, bring your community into your compartmentalized work life, you have to make sure that they are the right people that are going to push you in the right direction. If you are going to do it in gym, you have to make sure that their views on gym and their views on fitness align with yours, because very easily you can go down the wrong path. I mean, if your friends in your community are pushing you to do things that you don't want to do and are going to impact other areas of your life, you need to have an honest conversation with yourself. So I think it's great. You can intertwine it, but make sure you have a shared vision.
Okay. I want to ask you on this as well, because, you know, there's kind of two mindsets towards work in people's views, where it's like some people are like, my work is a part of my life. You know, it's not work-life balance, they're the same thing. And there's a lot of pride in what they do, and they work for causes that they support wholeheartedly. Like you can think of like doctors. A doctor, some people become doctors for the paycheck. Most people do it because they want to help others, you know. Some people go into software development because there's a lot of money there, but some people genuinely love coding and genuinely love the people in that kind of community. And you get the other end of the spectrum where people are just like, my job is just the thing I do. You know, I go in, I clock out, gives me my paycheck. I try my best, but it's not like I can work for a meaningless company as long as they pay me well, kind of thing. Where do you fall on that spectrum, and how important do you think it is that your job brings you fulfillment in your life?
So I think it's important to remember that your value as a human being is not defined by your occupation or your salary. Your value as a human being is what your morals are. How do you treat the person next to you? Are you kind? Are you honest? Are you loyal? Or are you backstabbing? Or do you have ill intentions for other people? So number one, I think it's important to align that. Okay. And the second thing is, I think it's very important as human beings to pursue something where you feel like you're adding value. You need to have purpose in life. And although you might not agree with what you're doing right now is for work, it might not be your passion, it might just be something bringing in income, you need to remember that it is your current path. It may not be your path forever, but it is your current path and you must make the most of it. You can't adopt that mentality that, in my opinion, I don't think you can adopt that mentality that it's just work. It's, you know, you have to bring in other aspects of it and actually enjoy your time. Otherwise, life is going to go by in such a flash.
I go 50-50 on a lot of times, because sometimes I'm like, yeah, like, you know, a job is a large portion of your life. You spend a lot of time there.
You see your colleagues more than your family. You see your colleagues more than your roommate or your girlfriend or your wife.
But on the other hand, I know some people that like their job is just their job, but they volunteer on weekends, or they have like a community where they provide a lot of value, and that brings them that like purpose, satisfaction. It's like, yeah, I'm just like a what's a shit job? Yeah, I'm just like a garbage collector. But like on weekends, I go and feed people in the homeless shelter, and that makes me feel like I matter. Do you think that that is a viable option for people too, to find purpose outside of work? Or do you think at some point they should try to align that purpose with their job? Even if it's not now, maybe somewhere down the line, like I can turn this into my full-time thing.
It's a tricky one because I think the schooling system fails us slightly in the sense that you have to choose subjects when you are 16 years old. You have to choose a degree to study when you are 18. You have no experience in the adult world outside.
Yeah.
You don't know what you want to do. I mean, look, I'm still learning. Like I said earlier, it's my first time living. I'm trying to figure out what I like and what I don't like. At the moment, this is my current path. Is it my path forever? I'm not sure. But I'm going to give it my all right now. And yeah, yeah, you have to remember you have to give yourself grace. You might not be doing what you want to do for the rest of your life right now, but that's exciting. You're able to learn, you're able to make other decisions, you're able to take risks. And eventually, I think everyone is working towards that path where you enjoy what you do, not do what you do to enjoy it.
I got two stories in this I think you'll like. The one is I had a friend back when I was a bartender in Pretoria. He's like, this is coming up to like midway through my honors, master's years. And I was like, what the hell do I want to do with my life? And I started feeling a little bit of panic about it. Because it kind of feels like when you don't have things figured out, the immediate like reaction is, I got to figure it out right now. I got to get it fixed. And I was speaking to him about it, and he said, man, my dad used to work in a bank, like as like a clerk. Not like he wasn't like a finance guy. He just like took in the money, put it into register, like wrote up the books and left. And the one day some lady came in to update the software on the computers, and he saw her like typing some things in, and this like console came up and stuff, and he goes, hey, that looks pretty interesting. How'd you get into this? And she was like, oh no, I studied this, and that, and I just got a job. And after that, Ryan's dad went to IT and was in IT till the day he died because he loved it.
Oh.
It just found him, And I think to that grace part, like you don't have to always go actively looking for what's going to be your purpose. Sometimes it finds you,
Yeah.
The other story I really loved was this girl that was working at Spotify as a data scientist, which is that's a super high position. I don't know if you noticed, but most of AI is just recommendation engines. Like that's like the biggest application of AI, that and marketing. So she was working on recommendation stuff in Spotify, which is a huge deal. And she started rising up the ranks. And at first she really loved it. People that get into data science, usually it's their passion for the time being. And at some point she just stopped liking it. And she kind of felt panicked, like, okay, what do I do now? Like she started doing interviews and trying to find a new place to work. And she really wanted to leave because she wasn't happy at work anymore. And she was like interviewing for a company for like 3 months because the data science market is cooked, so it's hard to get a job. And they declined her, and she was heartbroken. And this is just before she had to go and leave to go to China for granddad's funeral. And she decided she's going to make a decision on what to do with her career when she gets back. And she went to China, went to the funeral, and when she got back, she immediately handed in her resignation. Because at the funeral, she met people coming up to her to say, hey, I met your granddad when he was doing A, B, and C in his life. Then another person would come up and say, hey, I knew your granddad when he was doing X, Y, and Z. Then another person would come up and it's like, I knew your granddad when he was doing M, N, and O. And she just came to this conclusion, and she said it so sequentially. She said it so well. It was so beautiful when she said it. She said, life is short because it feels like it goes by really quickly, but life is long because you wear a lot of faces in it. And you shouldn't feel ashamed to leave your current identity for the next one because you think this is all you've ever been.
Sure. No, that's profound.
I love that because I think it's something that we do now where it's like, this is who I've been for so long. How do I change now? How do I become someone else? And the truth is, this is who you've been for now. Like you were Cameron Ciaglia before you were a civil engineer. You were Cameron Ciaglia before you were jacked, And And one day you might not be Jack anymore, and you'll still be Cameron Ciaglia. One day you'll retire from being a civil engineer, and you'll still be Cameron Ciaglia. So it's not who you are, it's who you are right now, and you shouldn't hold on to that so dearly because it's scary to you, you know?
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. And that's why I say you mustn't take your value from your current occupation or your salary slip.
Yeah. Or whatever you identify as right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Your identity is not your value. Your value is, I like to believe that your value is just your person.
it is.
Yeah.
It's your heart.
Yeah. Your body is the only resume you can't fake. Do you think of the rise of things like Ozempic, GLP-1 agonists, peptides, skyrocketing rates of gymflation, skyrocketing rates of body dysmorphia? Do you think that that saying will stop holding so true and more people are going to start faking the resumes that is their body? Or do you think that that's going to be a temporary phase and the ones that only came in for like this shortcutted way to getting a great physique will eventually filter out and we'll be left with the people that actually like doing it for the purpose of doing it?
I think we're in the very early stages of peptides. And it's scary because a lot of these peptides on the market, you don't need to put in the work to see results.
You also don't need to put in the work to get them listed for sale. They're very dangerous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot of truth in that statement. I think people, you can start faking your body on your resume, but I don't think you should care. It comes down, fitness in general is you versus you. You don't need to compare yourself to these people on social media. These people that run faster than you, jump higher than you, look bigger than you, have more muscles. It is a personal journey with yourself. And I think that's what you can't fake. Because ultimately you deep down know if you are putting in the work. And it comes down to purpose. What is your purpose? What are you trying to achieve? What goal are you trying to get out of this? I don't believe there's any shortcuts in life. I feel you need to put in the work. So although other people might get the desired results from these shortcuts or ways to get things quicker, so shortcuts. I think ultimately it's you versus you, and it comes down to what you want out of life. If you are training because you want to look a certain way in the quickest amount of time possible, then cool. Take your peptides, take the shortcuts. But if you are doing it because you want to develop a mindset and a mentality and an indestructible, goal-orientated mindset, then put in the work. And don't worry about other people's shortcuts that they're taking. It's your journey. You're doing it for reasons that other people don't care about.
So I guess what you're trying to say is like it's less fulfilling to get the shortcut. Like it's not going to, if fulfillment is what you're chasing, it's not going to scratch that itch. I do think it's quite telling that you obviously know of Togi,
Yes.
the most infamous man in fitness. He's recently turned his life around, where he's now claiming to be a God-fearing Christian and he doesn't want to gamble and do drugs anymore. And he talks about like, he never actually believed in any of that stuff. He never actually thought it was the way to happiness. But it got him the views, and it got him the attention that he wanted, and it got him those results, and he still felt that emptiness from it. And I kind of worry that the same thing's going to happen, where you're going to get this amazing physique, take years off your life from these experimental drugs that are still not even approved in animals in most cases. And then you're going to get there and realize that it was all for naught. That the thing that you should have solved isn't the physical, but the mental. And I think fitness is wonderful because it lets you solve both those problems at once. But only if your intention's correct. What do you think of like the guy that is super insecure about his body and like it's in the way of his social life, his dating life, maybe even his career, and he wants a shortcut for that reason? What would be your advice to that guy?
Well, I was that guy. I mean, a lot of people don't know, but in high school, my friends will know this. I was, in matric, I think I was 54 kgs. I'm now 23 kgs heavier. And that's just a compounded effect of daily habits. And Yeah, I mean, with the influence of social media, it is so easy to be indoctrinated into taking these shortcuts because you want those results as quickly as possible.
Mm.
But you have to differentiate between short-term satisfaction and long-term sacrifice and outcomes. When you accept that this is not going to be a short process, it's a marathon, not a sprint, then it is more fulfilling because I believe training is a metaphor for life. The hard work you put into training, the discipline it requires to eat the right way, to wake up a certain time and go do the thing that you don't want to do, translates into other areas of your life. You will work harder. You will enjoy time with your friends more because you know that those good times may not always be there. And that's why I don't think you should be taking shortcuts. Put in the hard graft, make the sacrifices, because that way your physique isn't just being built. Your mentality, your mindset, and your purpose is being built.
This is more of a personal question because I've always wanted this, because I've always heard two different ends of the spectrum on this. One where people say like, you know, the common the trope of when you get into gym you expect to get more girls, but in reality you get more guys, in your DMs. But there's also people that are like, no, people do treat you better when you look better, and maybe it's like a decaying effect where like if you go from being maybe like in your case 30 kgs underweight to being in good shape, then there's a big jump in how people perceive and treat you. But anything above that, you kind of get diminishing returns. Do you feel like people have started treating you differently in any way since you got in shape? Like more respect, or people are kinder, people reach out to you more?
Well, that was the biggest reason I started training. I was very insecure. I lacked confidence, and I wanted to be able to walk in a room and have my presence felt. I mean, I'm not the tallest oak, and all you guys listening that know me know that.
Yeah.
So I needed to do something with my life to be able to be like, okay, I matter. I was trying to prove it to myself for the longest time. And that's why I started training and gymming, and those daily habits just compounded and compounded and compounded, and I eventually just loved doing it.
But as a byproduct, did you feel people's perception of you change, or has it purely been from the inside?
I think the byproduct is the confidence that you get. I don't think people treat you better because you look a certain way, but it's the way that you carry yourself because you feel better about yourself. And I think at the diminishing returns part, I think if you make the sacrifices instead of taking the shortcuts, you're not going to find diminishing returns because your confidence has been built on the long-term sacrifice that you're making.
So you're saying you do feel the difference, but you think it's from within what's being projected out, and not necessarily from outside being projected
100%.
No, dude, I think it's very true. I do think there is something to be said of like, if you're starting at the bottom and you go up, you're definitely going to feel a change. Like, maybe like what's a good example of this? If you are dead broke and you're like a beggar on the street, and you go from that to being a middle class person in society in terms of like wealth, you have a place to stay, stable job, people do just look at you different, right? Like, but the higher you go up the totem pole, the less effect that has, right? The difference between a CEO and an executive in terms of perception isn't as big as the difference between a CEO and a cleaner, So there definitely is a difference in perception, but it's not, if you don't have a tangible goal attached to it, a place where you'll stop and you just keep on going, then you're going to keep chasing that change that's happened when you get to the diminishing returns. So like in the context of gym, if your goal is like, I'm 100 kgs overweight, I just want to be normal, and you get there, and that's where the buck ends, you're going to see that difference, and like maybe you could get in a bit better shape and people see you a bit differently, but you reap most of the rewards. But if you're 100 kgs overweight and you're like, I want to be the next Mr. Olympia, or you don't even have a bound on where you want to go, and you lose all the weight, and you see all this positive effect of like, oh, people are nicer to me, girls like pay me attention, whatever. And then you think like, I need to get more. It's just going to continue increasing linearly. That's when you start doing steroids, and then you notice there isn't that big effect anymore. Like there's diminishing returns, and you're like, no, it must be I'm not doing enough steroids. So then you do more, and you keep chasing more, and you can apply the same thing to money. You know, if you don't have an end goal of like, I want to make this much money per year, then let's say you get to 100K. Now you're like, okay, now I want to get 100K dollars. Obviously 100K rand isn't much. 100K dollars. Now you get to 100K, people treat you a bit better, you have a more comfortable form of life. Now you have no top end goal. It's like, okay, now I need 200K, now 400K. Now the jumps aren't making, the jumps in wealth aren't making the same jumps in happiness. And that's when you get stuck in this spiral and keep going and keep going. And so I think it's important to recognize like, yes, there's going to be perceptual changes, but they're going to cut off at a point, you know, and don't keep chasing that high of there has to be more to it. At some point you tap out what you can get out of your body. You tap out what you can get out of how other people see you. And then the work has to come from within and actually come from the mental side of things.
No, I fully agree. I mean, sitting here right now, I've got a goal in my mind. I want to be making X amount at this age. When I get to that age, I'm not going to be satisfied because I'm going to be wanting to make Y amount at the different age.
Do you know who Scott Galloway is?
No.
He's brilliant. I believe he's like a professor at MIT or Harvard Business School, one of the two. Super smart guy. And he's just a genuine old school kind of dude. He thinks dudes should drink beer and hang out together and make money. Okay. But he always tells people, find out how much money you need for the lifestyle you want. Yeah. Right? And find out how much money you need in the bank for the passive income to satisfy that lifestyle. Let's say $10 million would give you a passive income enough for you to live in a good house, take care of your family, go on vacation regularly. Set that goal for 10 million then. And as soon as you hit 10 million, don't save a cent more. Start doing things with those money. Help other people out, you know. Start companies that like help NGOs and charities and whatnot. Because if you don't have that top goal, you're just going to keep on going, and it's never going to be enough money. And eventually you turn into a Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett, where you just stay in it forever and you lose sight of why you started it. You know, you started it because you wanted a certain level of comfort, and now you've gotten that comfort and you're still going.
But why do you think people have that greed? I think it's because they are that's where they derive their value from. They derive their value from their paycheck. They derive their value from their position in a company. So I think you need to be happy with yourself in that room with the four walls by yourself. After you've spent time with yourself, no one around you, alone. Yeah. If you're happy with that person, then you're not going to be chasing value from anything external.
Yeah, I think to answer the question of why people have that greed, I think there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I think a lot of it is jealousy. You know, like you wouldn't want $1 million if someone else didn't have $1 million. Yeah. Because then you see what they have, and you're like, oh, I want that. I think another part of it is also just that thing I said of like the beginning, the progress comes so quickly, and the changes to your life are so monumental that you kind of just expect it to keep on going like that. But to answer the question of why are people so greedy, I think it also has something to do with the isolation component to it, right? Like maybe money at some point becomes your community, except it's not community that's going to give back to you. And I think a lot of people sacrifice the thing they want for the thing that they think will get them what they want. So a lot of people will be like, I want to make a lot of money so I can pursue my passion. Well, why don't you just pursue your passion from the start? Yeah. You know? And I guess the whole umbrella for all these different problems is there's not enough introspection, actual questioning. I don't think people question the desires because it feels like something that's so intrinsic. But if you ever sit down and think like, why do I want a relationship? Well, I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want
to be appreciated.
To be appreciated. Well, can't you give yourself that? Is the only way to feel appreciated is by having a romantic partner appreciate you?
Having external validation.
Or in the ways around it, like, can you appreciate yourself? Can you work at a food shelter where the homeless people appreciate you? Can you mentor the younger guy at work and he appreciates you? Because I don't think people's desires are as evil as we paint them to be. I think there's a lot of good behind these desires. But we don't let people sit on it and think on it enough. And people accept too much stuff at face value as well. That's another big issue of it.
No, I fully agree with you.
If your environment is stronger than your willpower, change the environment. What advice do you have for someone who wants to turn their life around, but their environment's really poor? All their friends are alcoholics, smoke a bunch of weed, no ambition. They live like in the rough part of town. What's the quickest way to change your environment so that you can stop needing so much willpower to actually get what you want done?
It's a tricky one to answer because obviously people are going to have, everyone comes from a different background, everyone has a different story, everyone has a different start in life with different levels of security. But I think ultimately you have to put yourself first. I think Alex Hormozy spoke about this, or his wife actually spoke about this. Every time he says no to a plan is for an even bigger yes. He's saying no to certain things because he has a bigger goal in mind. So if you start retracting yourself from those bad situations and start focusing on what you want out of life, then you're going to start attracting the right people. I firmly believe in the energy you put out is the energy you receive back. And you're not going to bear those fruits immediately. It's going to be a long process. You're going to feel alone. You're going to question your path. But I think intrinsically, like from a personal level, if you are 100% certain about what you want out of life, you will get it. You just have to make those small micro changes every day.
Yeah, what's interesting, saying a lot of no's to people, especially in that beginning portion, there's going to be a part of that where you get lonely and you have to kind of cope with that loneliness.
You'll be outcasted.
Yeah.
If your current friend group that is alcoholics, potentially thieves, criminals, is all you know, you're the only community you have around you, and you start pulling back from that, you're going to have no one. You're going to have to rebuild and rebuild and rebuild and rebuild and rebuild until you eventually meet the person that you want to be and be in the place you want to be.
Did you experience that loneliness when you were trying to build up the person you want to be, or were you fortunate to find like-minded people from the start?
I was quite blessed that there's a lot of very influential people that I've had in my life that have helped shape the person I am to be today. And I've been very blessed that I've always had people around me that have matched my vision. And that's why I say it's a difficult question to answer because everyone has a different story. Everyone has a different background.
Yeah. I think I'll speak to a bit about it because I've battled through loneliness a lot in my life. I think being an immigrant child is quite a tough one for loneliness. And particularly it's something that I battled with a lot when I came to Cape Town. I came here in the middle of winter, didn't know a single person, didn't really have any friends. And Cape Town's not known for being an extremely easy place to make friends.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound Bible bashy on this a lot, but that lonely period of my life is really where I came to appreciate the idea that there's a God out there with me. You know, and I think I don't want to force my ideologies down anyone's throat, but I think spirituality can be very useful in these periods where you're super lonely. You know, understanding that you might be physically alone, but that does not mean you are theologically alone. There's something great out there. And it's something that even when no one's around you, that it hears what you're thinking and it hears what you're feeling and you are seen and you are heard. That personally helped me a whole bunch. And I encourage people, you know, you don't necessarily have to go to church. You don't have to go to a mosque. You don't have to go to a synagogue. But if you want to meditate on things, if you want to try, it's going to sound terrible, but like psychedelics, have an out-of-body experience, anything that makes you realize you're not alone for a time being really helps you get through that lonely portion of your life.
You know, you need to find that spiritual relationship with whoever and whatever you believe in.
And the nice thing about that is, I know it's quite tough to talk about religious communities in the modern day of age, because a lot of religious communities did make this whole purity circle thing that worst marketing for religion ever. We didn't do a great job on that one. But I think a lot of religious communities, if you came up to them and you were curious, genuinely curious, most of them accept you into it, and most of them are willing to answer your questions or hear you out, or even away from the spirituality. Like, I started going to church. I started going to a Connect group. It was the first time in my life I ever did Connect groups, which is like a bunch of guys get together on Wednesday and they read the Bible and stuff. Those guys reach out to me to hang out outside, go get coffee, go gym together, and go do life together. So if you're lonely because you're trying to transition away from your current life, spiritual communities are a great place to start. It's a great place to go make friends and to go find a higher purpose and to go find a lifelong companion. Obviously, it's not the only way. It's what worked for me. Some people like doubling down on that loneliness. Some people love making that me versus the world kind of thing. That's what gets you through it, man. Power to you, whatever it is. But I think to get out of the bad situations that you're currently in, you do have to accept that there's going to be a great magnitude of doing it yourself, and no one else is going to be there.
But that's where it comes down to that victim mentality again. When you were experiencing that lonely period in your life, yes, at times you probably wake up and you hate the world. But at a certain point, you realize no one is coming to save you from you. It's up to you to be the architect of the life that you want to live. And I mean, although it must have been a very tough period, are you not partially grateful that you had to experience that? Because it has opened up these doors to the community that you are now living in?
I'm not at the point of gratitude yet. I'm still in the back portion of the slingshots before I get catapulted out further. So right now it's still a bit difficult for me to look back gratefully upon it. But I know someday I will.
It's a process.
Yeah.
And again, that's where the sacrifice comes in. And not chasing short-term outcomes for long-term goals.
Yeah, it's also something I thought about, like when I started publishing these videos and I started seeing 7, 4, 6 views on everything. I was a bit discouraged. I was like, oh man, these ones really suck. And then the thought came into my mind, it's like, if this got 1,000 views on the first try, I wouldn't feel good to hit 1,000 views. Someday one of these videos is going to hit 100 and I'm going to be like, let's fucking go. It's finally done it, And I think the shortcuts thing it's such an interesting thing, because people think shortcuts are nice, but it just takes away from the satisfaction on it, I do think the reason why shortcuts feel nice is because adrenaline is one hell of a drug. And we kind of, fuck, the word's eluding me now. Kind of impose that onto other things. Like the best example I could think of is like I ran a half marathon and then I competed in powerlifting directly after that. The half marathon doesn't feel as good to finish because you see it coming for a while. Like when you're 7Ks out, it's like, okay, I'm going to make it. 4Ks out, it's like, okay, I'm going to make it. And it's just elongated over like 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on how fast you run it. When it was powerlifting, you went onto the platform and you basically had a minute to lift this thing up. And the actual process of lifting it is 5 seconds. Because it's such a quick, like you figure out whether or not you're going to make it in that instantaneous moment, it feels more riveting. And I think people assume that applies to everything. But in reality, like the slow burn feels great a lot of the time. Because, there's maybe not one point where you're like, oh, the high has hit me. But there comes it's almost like the exposure of happiness is like slow like that. So like, it's less condensed, but it lasts a lot longer and it's a lot more permanent. That's my 2 cents on that one.
No, I fully agree with you. That's an awesome analogy.
Okay. It's time for the lightning round.
The what? Lightning round?
The lightning round.
So it's 1-word answers.
Well, one idea answers. So 15 seconds to answer.
Okay.
You can't elaborate. Can't change your mind. Can't correct it. Once you say it, it's solidified in internet history and people will hold you accountable to your answers for the rest of your life.
Cancel me.
You ready to go?
You do edit this, right?
Yeah, I do, but not this part. So you got 10 seconds to answer each one.
Okay.
When was the last time you cried?
A few weeks ago.
Lebanese food or Italian food?
Lebanese food.
In dating, is there a one or do you make the one?
There's a one.
Which area of your life demands the most discipline right now but gets the least attention?
His work.
Best Springbok of all time?
Schalk Burger.
What belief about hard work do most people get wrong?
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Never have structure again or never have freedom again?
Never have freedom again.
Dead or alive, who would you want your last meal to be with?
My mom.
Are you satisfied of how wide your shoulders are yet?
I'm never satisfied.
Last question. Who would you like to see next on the interview of Argu?
Amish Kubaji.
Amish, you've been called out once again. Cam, thank you so much for coming on. If people want to keep up with you, where can they follow you? Where can they find you?
So I'm mostly active on my Instagram. It's cam.ciaglia. I'm sure you can get the spelling in the description that Argu is going to put on this podcast. Other than that, feel free to reach out to me. I'm still learning. There's a lot of life I still need to live, and every day is a learning day. So if my story or my background has touched you in any way, or you're experiencing anything similar, please feel free to DM me. I'm more than happy to chat.
What a beautiful way to end the episode. Cam, thanks so much for coming on. I loved having you. If you want to be on the next episode, the interview of Argu, please feel free to reach out to me on any platform. Fill in the link in the description and you can be on. Until next time, have a great day.